Ishita, and I am here with a best-selling author who has over 1 million pages read on Amazon Kindle. The creator of the NPS Thrillerverse, the mastermind behind blockbuster series like Rashmi Purohit, J.V. Solanki, Heartlands, and The Scorpion Ops. The man with almost 40 fan-favorite books to his credit, Neelabh Pratap Singh. Hello, Neelabh. Welcome.
Hello, Ishita. Thanks for inviting me. Always excited to be a part of a conversation with the fellow like-minded people in the writing community. Always a pleasure.
You are probably the only writer who managed to create this vast thriller verse. Congratulations on achieving this feat. Did you always have this multiverse in your head? What inspired you to create one series after the other?
Any creative endeavor, any creative content creation never requires a careful planning. It is always impulsive. The idea comes from nowhere. I mean, it might be an unpopular opinion. Maybe all those writers who have very structured approach, they are going to feel little offensive. But most of the time, at least in my case, any good idea, it is always born out of an impulse, not with a careful thought or lot of planning. Like we are watching something, listening to something, any two people having a conversation, and we heard that conversation. The idea comes from anywhere. So that happened with so I will answer your question in two parts. One is writing a series and another is writing a lot of series. So my first three books were standalone. So it was not always that I had planned to write in a series. During COVID, during lockdown, I happened to develop a habit of reading ebooks. And there I found, especially in the American authors, the UK authors, Irish authors, Australian authors, I saw that be it best-selling authors or known authors or unknown authors, successful, unsuccessful, all were writing in series. And that is something when I compared to our Indian counterparts, I found very few people were writing series. And that got me curious why it is so. Be it our Indian publishing that is not encouraging writing in series, or we are not aware, or we are not thinking about it, or we are just looking up to those successful authors who are not writing in series. Because if you compare to the American authors, you can find countless examples, not just talking about the successful ones, but the relatively unknown ones are also writing in series. Successful ones, especially in my genre, the crime thriller genre, Lee Child, Jack Reacher is a common name. Okay. Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan is a common name. Then you have in fantasy, you have George R. R. Martin, J.K. Rowling. Okay, all write in series. Even J.K. Rowling's pen name in crime thriller genre, Robert Galbraith, Cormoran Strike series, that is also a series.
True.
So that made me thinking, let's find some protagonist-based series in India where we have a protagonist like, forget about books, James Bond, Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, or you can have Sherlock Holmes. Do we have such kind of protagonist-based series where every book has a different story? It is not a one story over multiple books. Do we have any such known favorite characters? I failed to find. In the name of series, I can only recall Amish Tripathi's Shiva trilogy or Sri Ramchandra series.
Right.
Or in other genre, I really struggled to find any book which has a protagonist-centric series. At that time, I recently released Private Investigator Rashmi Purohit series. So I thought, why not develop it into a series? Every book will be standalone. In every book, we have a recurring set of protagonists who are going to solve a different case. So you can read it any order, but you have a association with a protagonist for a long time.
Right.
And I just assume that it is going to build author-reader relationship. The reader will always want to know what case my protagonist is going to be dealing with next, what murder mystery she is going to solve next. And I kept writing and people kept loving. That's how I developed a series of books. And going forward, when I had a different series of different protagonists, I thought, why not make them interconnected like we have our Marvel Cinematic Universe? So they are largely independent, not that in every other book they are featuring in each other's story, but they are largely independent.
J.V. Solanki was the first series that I read. As an Indian, I was really proud that there was someone who was pursuing this path. Because like you rightly said, this is unheard of in India. Not that we have a paucity of talent. I don't know, people never thought about it. So,
We had
of course.
Byomkesh Bakshi successful in both novel, both TV.
Right.
We had this Hindi author, Surendra Mohan Pathak. He has series of single protagonist recurring in multiple books. In all, he's dealing with a different case. So it's just the so-called mainstream publishing. I'm not sure why they are not looking after series, despite the fact that they are publishing a series of books in their home countries, in US and America. They are doing that. Why they are not doing in India, I'm not sure.
When I was reading the sabotage plot, from the first page itself, it felt like I had dived right into this super fast paced action flick. And things were moving and keeping me hooked. As a budding writer myself, I wanted to understand how did you write your first ever action sequence? And did you prepare or research for it, or did you have it all spanned in your head?
Okay, another time for another unpopular opinion. Research in our writing field is highly overrated. We focus so much on our research that we forget the other more important elements of writing. I need to write a research-based action scene. That was not in my mind. I was struggling to find different ways my protagonist is involved or engaged in action or combat with his adversary. So to solve that problem, because every time my protagonist won't punch or he would not kick him every time, it should be different in different scenario. So to solve that problem, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube where the martial art instructors or the Muay Thai instructors or the close quarter combat instructors, they have their YouTube channel. They show different tutorials to solve that problem. Yeah, because when I have to write down the action scenes, I need to explain very clearly what is going on. I need to paint that picture to create that imagery so that my readers are very clear what is happening, how the body parts are moving. To imagine that kind of thing, I have watched the martial art videos. Maybe you can call it research. I just wanted to solve a problem for myself.
Yeah.
But what more important for me is what is going inside my protagonist's head when he is engaged in that battle, because it is not going to be same every time. For example, if my protagonist is a special forces operative and he is fighting with a low level street gunda, he is just humoring himself. He will not be serious. If he is in a situation where he is going to enter inside a building and he has to save a hostage, and at that time, if a street level gunda is blocking his path, he will be a little bit more serious. He will not be just humoring himself. Or if he is in a situation where the street level gunda is very skilled, my protagonist not just have to fight him, but has to save his own life. Then his mindset will be different. Three different scenarios, same adversary, his mindset will be different. So that is more important for me to show in the story what is going inside his mind, rather than some research that he lifted his hand at a 30-degree angle and then he punched with 60 Newton meter torque. If I do this much of research and write, maybe I feel good about it. Maybe I will look a bit more intellectual than other authors. But it is useless research.
You're writing that. It was you, the
It's a useless data. So as a writer, we make this mistake because we listen from other successful authors. Research is very important. Research is to build your credibility. But what is more important is make your readers get connected with your protagonist, what he is thinking. Maybe if a martial art instructor is seeing and he might say, oh, this is not fight happens. But if you manage to get the connection established between your protagonist and reader, even if technically your protagonist is incorrect, still your readers will believe it. That's what fiction is all about. I just recalled an example from James Patterson. I was watching his masterclass. So he gave an example of how research is overrated or how our authors overdo research. For example, there's a romantic scene where a hero is proposing a heroine in the front of some iconic historical church. He said that you don't need to explain the history and architecture and intricacy of the sculpture of the church. No, you just need to show that they are standing in front of a popular church, and you need to explain what they are feeling and how he is proposing her and how the scene is unfolding, what dialogues is going on between them, rather than focusing on the church. Just because you have read a lot about that church and you have done a lot of research doesn't mean you have to show everything in that scene. So this is, yeah.
In fact, that usually gets me thinking that, while writing an action sequence, how much should a writer focus on the protagonist's emotions in the scene, or how much is too much, and at what point does it begin to interrupt the flow of the scene?
So first question, how much is too much? Nothing is too much. You can spend like pages and pages for a single punch. Another tip from author Lee Child, that make the fast bits slow and slow bits fast. So whatever in real life is happening quickly, delay it explain it in a slow fashion, and whatever in the real life is going on in a slow manner, explain it quickly. So if a fight is going on, usually fight ends in 30 seconds. That means like two, three lines or like maximum one paragraph. I like to slow down my action scene. I like to explain in very detailed manner how the action scene is unfolding, how the body parts are moving. If they are moving, then the protagonist is deliberately moving in such a manner. If he is shifting his weight on the back foot, is he doing in the deliberate manner or he is being forced to do that? That kind of thing I explain from my protagonist perspective, so that I establish if he is doing it deliberately, I am establishing a fact that he is a master of the combat. If he is not doing it deliberately, that means he is struggling. He is made to do that. He is in a difficult situation. So you understand, we call it show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he doesn't want to shift his weight on his right foot, but still he's made to do that, that means he's struggling. He's getting out of his hands. So that means he is little bit in struggle. But he is deliberately doing that, that means he is in control. Technically it is wrong. Maybe technically it never happens. Who cares? If reader is trusting in your narrative, you are successful. That's all fiction is all about, I always say.
How to kind of create that balance in an action sequence.
If that action sequence isn't very challenging for the protagonist, let it complete, finish it in a single scene. If it is challenging, if it is going to change the course of the story, or if it is going to put a pause or stop in the protagonist's journey, expand it to like 2 or 3 chapters, so that it really, by the time the reader finishes the third or the fourth chapter of the action sequence, he will feel, he or she should feel exhausted.
They were in that scenes,
Yeah, even in that scene. Yeah. So even in the movies, you see the climax scenes are very longer compared to the introduction scene of the protagonist. And wherever the introduction scene of the introduction action scene of the protagonist is very longer, you start feeling bored. Gravity is the correct word. What is the gravity of the situation?
So, has your background in mechanical engineering ever helped you with this scene or in writing a book?
Yeah, if I mean, if two automobiles were fighting, then definitely my mechanical engineering background would have helped, or two machineries, heavy equipment machineries would have been
Yeah.
having a romantic conversation. Definitely, my mechanical engineering background would have helped. My engineering background has definitely helped me in my writing, because many engineers would relate that we engineers hate to work under the, you can say, boundary of protocol or procedures. We want to do things in our own way. We hate procedures, we hate structure, we hate method, I mean, same mundane methodology. We know what our goal is, and we, by hook or by crook, we try to achieve it. Same, this attitude helped me in writing, that I need to write a book. I need to write my book in a certain amount of time. This my engineering background of flexibility and of not sticking to a single procedure or protocol. This helped me, because every book that I have written from a different. I followed a different procedure. That's why I have been writing books so quickly.
Our studies prepare us. They groom us in a certain manner that our brain starts to function in a certain way, and then sky is the limit. We never know what comes out of our mind. Another thing, that has always struck me in your series is how diverse they are in terms of protagonists. Like there are male and female protagonists both, and they are fierce, loyal warriors with a baggage of their own. So, how do you ensure these characters don't merge, especially since you are rolling out a book almost every month? So, how do you keep them separate in your head?
It happened quite a lot, because when you are writing so many books, it bounds to happen that some of the storyline, it is there stuck in your head, and 4 books, 5 books down the line, when you are writing a new character, maybe you are influenced by a couple of characters from your previous book, or a couple of backstories from your previous book. So it happens. What helps me, or what I keep consciously, take care of, is that I need to give them a different motive each time. Each time, if their motive is different, they will act differently. Some things need to remain uniform. Otherwise, in every book, I can't give them a different motive. So if certain character is scared of something, he or she should be scared of something in all books. For example, Dan Brown's Robert Langdon is claustrophobic.
Yeah.
So Dan Brown ensures that in every book he puts Robert Langdon in certain situation that he shows that fear of his in every book. What matters is giving them a different, slightly different background and a slightly different motive. Even if some things are same, readers might not mind it, because when their motive, what they want to achieve in that book, if it is slightly different, they will act differently. And that's why it is very important to think about what is going inside your character's head. Even if the story is same, if my first book was about kidnapping, if my fifth book was also about a kidnapping, like in first book my protagonist was saving a hostage, maybe in my fifth book the protagonist was also saving a hostage. In both books, hostage is in the same situation. But what they wanted, if that is, or what their background was, one was a student, another was maybe a housewife or anything, or maybe a businessman. If even if both of them are student, but one of them was innocent, other had some, you can say, some involvement in the crime. If that kind of slight difference you can do, if you give them a little bit of different background and a different motive, things will change entirely. Even if they are the same, almost same character in the same situation. Pay attention or give more focus to what is going on inside your protagonist's head. What is their aspiration? What is their goal in that story? What is their motive? The story will keep forming in your head automatically. You don't need to think what is going to happen when you start thinking from the character's perspective. That's why I focus a lot on, I'm going a little bit technical if you don't mind. I focus a lot on perspective when writing a story. So there are different perspectives. Some stories are narrated from first person perspective, some are from third person. First person perspective, you are very clear that there is one character from whose point of view the entire story will be narrated. Third person, you are flexible. Now what we mistake is third person means playing God. That means you are watching everyone and you are telling the readers what's going inside his head and what's going inside it. In third person, this is what we think. But in third person perspective, you can also write like a first person. For example, if you're writing a chapter or a scene, you can fix the perspective on one particular character. Even if it is being narrated from a third person perspective, still the point of view is fixed only on one character. So that means if there are three characters A, B, C, and the point of view is fixed on character A, then you cannot show, even if it is a third person perspective, you cannot show what is going on inside the head of character B and character C. So this is called deep point of view. So when you follow that, coming back to our question, when you follow that, you will always be thinking what this character will be thinking in this scenario. So you won't be generic. You will be going deep inside his or her head, and that makes the difference in the story. And there you will realize that even if you, and that's where writer block never happens, because when you get inside the head of your character, you start to feel comfortable with the character and the story starts forming on of its own.
After all, it is emotions that a reader is drawn to, and once you are inside your character's head, that means you are able to, you are kind of playing with the emotions that that character has, and eventually, emotions never stop; they change form.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Once your reader is emotionally connected, nothing else matters. Even if the scene is going on for 4 or 5 chapters, if they are emotionally invested in that character, it doesn't matter. For example, an episode from Game of Thrones first season, I think episode 2, King's Road, or all the characters like the king and Ned Stark, they made a stop on the King's Road, and the entire scene is based on that particular place. It should have been boring, but it was never boring because they were focusing a lot on what is going on inside characters' head or their chemistry. And same with the books. So this deep point of view, a typical example is A Song of Ice and Fire series. Each chapter is narrated from a particular character's perspective in third person, but it goes very deep inside the character's head. So if any aspiring author or a established author, if they want to learn more on perspectives, the Song of Ice and Fire book series is the gold standard.